Hello, welcome everybody. We are excited today to talk to you a little bit about the process of the application for registration for the Illinois High School Theater Festival for January of 2025. So we have some people with us who will be talking through this process and answering questions as we go. And we are recording this session so that way if someone's not able to attend it or gets in late, they can also take a look at it later as well. And at the end, we'll have the option for people to ask questions too. So to start off, Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, Brandon Lewis. I am the theater director at St. Francis High School, and this year I'm the executive director for Theatrefest 2025. Judy?
I am the president of the ITA currently. I taught at Fremd High School for many years and I'm retired now. And I have been an executive director and been on the planning committee for the festival. And so I'm just here to support whatever anybody needs.
And I'm Christina Ordonez. I'm one of the associate directors this year for mentorship.
I'm Anna McSweeney. I'm one of the other directors for mentorship. And I'll turn it over to Dennis or Alan, whoever wants to go next and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis. I'm the ITA treasurer, but also here just to support and see what I can get.
Hi, I'm Alan Kimball. I am the secretary and executive director for 2026.
Okay, so what we are planning on doing is just sort of going through the process. So I will drive the car, and then if you guys want to talk a little bit about it as we go. So we're
Even before we get there, so because we're kind of assuming that the registration process, if you've done Theatrefest a bunch of years, is going to be awfully similar to how it's been in the past. There might be some people who are going to eventually watch this video who just want to know a little bit more also just what Theatrefest is, to see what you're actually registering for. So, and I'm partially saying that mostly because I got an email, we got an email today about a student who was in the a director whose student was in the All-State show, and they have never been to Theatrefest before. So like, can we just get tickets to the All-State show? How does that even work? So the Illinois High School Theatrefest is one of the longest running and one of the largest theater fests in the entire country. And this is its 49th year, and next year is going to be its 50th year. And the festival is usually between 4,000 and 4,200 students and theater adults from high schools throughout the entire state. We have workshops, we have performances. Some of the performances are by the schools. And then one of the things that we do, of course, have is the All-State show, which is made up of students and staff throughout the entire state of Illinois. So the All-State show is part of the festival as a whole. In order to see the All-State show, you would just want to make sure that you register to be to bring your whole school to the 3-day festival if possible. Now, the festival technically runs Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We do have a few schools who will only come down Friday and Saturday. We even have some schools who will only come Saturday because maybe some field trip regulations or things like that. But what we encourage, because there's so much to offer, that teachers and students can make it to all 3 days, because there's an amazing opening ceremony on Thursday. And then, like I said, so many shows, so many workshops, so many performance and networking opportunities through all those 3 days. There's an exhibit hall where you can meet colleges. You can meet vendors who do theatrical supplies, whether that's lighting or sound or headshots or photos or anything like that. So there's a lot of really, really great opportunities in that way. Then we've got some really, really great things for maybe some tech directors or for those one-person theater programs. Not everyone has the experience of directing, but they might know some stuff about the tech side, or vice versa, which we see a lot of. So we have a booth that's like an Ask the Tech Director booth, where if you have questions on how you would build something or some things that are possible, there are ways to just talk to some people and get some advice. as well as obviously see all the other things that we have available. Students can also audition for colleges while you're at the festival too, which is something that we'll talk a little bit part of the registration process as well. So it's a really great way that the students usually get to audition for almost 40 schools at one time, which can maybe seem a little overwhelming. But the way we have it structured and the way the colleges have it structured, it makes it so that it's a really comfortable atmosphere, and a really supportive atmosphere, but they get a lot of those auditions done for their either senior year or even for their junior year. So there's just a few of the things that Theatrefest as a whole has to offer. So the ITA runs the theater festival, and the ITA's mission is to support theater throughout the entire state of Illinois, whether that's secondary, elementary, community theater, professional theater, whatever it is. So we're really, really excited to bring the fest because it brings so many people together in just such a positive and wonderful atmosphere. So that's kind of what Theatrefest is just in general, for those who are just like, why do I even want to register? And what do we get out of it? So there's just so many different opportunities for our students and for our staff to learn and expand their knowledge and love of theater. So just kind of want to start there, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty on how to actually register.
That's perfect. Yes, you want to come. That's the first step in it, 100%. So, so when you have agreed with us that yes, you want to be there, the next step is to go through the registration process, which you may have received an email about this, you may have heard about it, or you can go to our illinoistheater.org website, and on there you'll see the Theatrefest. And if you just click onto the festival, you'll see school registration now live is the first thing on there. And this has all sorts of information about registering. So with that, the school registration form.
And Christina, before we get into that, one question that I got commonly last year in hospitality was, I understand I have to fill out this form, but how do I even get kids to sign up? And so one quick question or one quick thought that I had, if you can go back to that previous page. One thing that I do, and I'm happy to share as a resource, is I have a printout about the history of the festival, and I type up the cost for students, and I give it out to our students with the medical media release form. Because in order to register your students, so sorry, that is one of the forms that you will need to have students fill out. And so before even doing the online registration form, I sometimes start with that piece. And so I just wanted to jump to that. It's a one-sheet piece. I often will print it out and fill out the school information and then make copies so that students, because oftentimes they're turning it into me and they're like, wait a minute, I don't know your cell phone. So having that done just makes the process go a little bit quicker. And I have students turn this in with the, I charge them $100, which is the registration fee and a meal ticket, which we'll get into in a moment. But sometimes before I go to the other site, I start here.
It gives you a good
Definitely
idea with
that's
kids.
definitely a pro move to fill out the school information,
Took me
because
19 years, 19 years, I
yes.
figured it out.
Yes, and then part of that also, I will ask for the sponsor cell phone number. That's again, same thing. That as much as we wish we can keep them secret, we know that once one person gets them, everyone gets them. So might as well just fill it out and get them all that information right from the get-go, especially for multiple directors school, because that primary sponsor is really important for us, so that if there were to be anything that were to come up, then we know the right person to make sure we call. They put their theater director for the fall, when the musical director is the person who's bringing them, we might not get that right information. Not all the students always have all the right information. Shocking, right?
Is there anything else you guys want to mention while we're here on the medical and media release form?
No, I would just encourage students to write legibly, because what makes the most sense to me, at least, is I scan them all into one PDF so that after I complete my online registration form, I can just quickly send to the university so that they have that. But if they can't read something, they're going to kick it back, which has happened to me many times. So sometimes doing that on the front end and double checking that is very helpful. I would also remind your students to write last names on things and make sure to write in pen as opposed to pencil.
And I have had students who don't have insurance, who put in this for the medical information, and it's just reminding them that, yeah, that's okay if you don't have insurance to mark that. You can still come. It's okay. because we've had students who have been worried about that in the past as well. Okay, so back to this page. Again, this page is going to be sort of your home page for all of this information. So for the registration page, just going to click over onto it. There we go. So the online form, it's going to have some of the information here, for example, about payments. And so you have the opportunity to pay via credit card or a check or a purchase order. So something to keep in mind, all of that information that you may need to give to your business department is all right here, right in the front of this page. So even if you fill out the form and then say, oh, wait, where was I supposed to send that info? It's right on this same page right here. Okay, so just going through the form, again, that primary sponsor, who is the person who's going to be our main point of contact? It doesn't mean they're the only director there or only adult there, but who is the person who will be the main point of contact with the tickets, with the information, if there's a problem with the students, if there's anything that we need to know. Then the school information comes next. And I'm just going to put a couple pieces of info in here so that way we can go into the next page and you can see it. And then this region number. So this is how we're able to see how we are representing schools from around the entire state of Illinois, which is one of our goals as Theatrefest. And so it can be kind of hard to tell sometimes if you're in Bloomington Normal, like which part are you from? Pick the one that seems to fit your area the best. And going back, if my Zoom wants to move, there it goes. So I'm going to just say 3 for right now. Okay, so the next set of questions are things that will help us be able to tailor your experience a little more. So is this your first time attending Theatrefest or not? Is it your first time attending as the primary sponsor? If you don't want to be included in the directory, and then if you are planning on parking large buses or vans, this helps to be able to make sure that we have sufficient parking and that you have everything you need for that. And then on the next page, there's the opening performance times. So this is one of the ways that you can say, for example, if you're not able to leave your school until after school is over on Thursday, then you might choose a later evening. Do we know what times the early evening and the late evening Thursday performances might be?
Usually 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And until everything is hammered down at the university, we're not sure yet, but typically 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock are the two options, so that it's done by 9:30 at the latest, so that people can get home. And we know the students are really, really itching to get to the hotels to sleep.
And so if you don't have a preference, putting no preference helps us out a lot. And the tickets are on a first come, first served basis. So if you are able to fill this out earlier, the whole form rather than later, that gets you onto the list to get your preference more likely. So then the next question is your all-state performance time. So this year's all-state performance is the prom. And these are the different options that are available. So you can say whether it's your first through your fifth preference or whether you have no preference. They're all the same show. And so we believe that every single performance is the best performance that you have the opportunity to see. So pick the one that you feel will work best for you and your students and what your travel arrangements might be if you need to have a preference. Otherwise, putting in no preference allows a little more flexibility for the committee as well that's working in the box office. So I'm just going to go like that. Okay, so you can see the registration fees. And so if you are not a member of the Illinois Theater Association, which is the organization that is running the Illinois Theater Fest, then you need to pay $90. And if you are an ITA member, then you're exempt from the school registration fee. I highly, highly, highly suggest that everyone becomes an ITA member, because beyond just Theaterfest, there's lots of other opportunities to help you and your students. And we even have a secondary education division that helps specifically support our high school theater programs.
And G, can you tell us how to do that? Or if our school wants to become an ITA school?
Judy, do you want to answer this one?
Sure. You can go to the Illinois Theater Association website, and there it is. And you can join. You can read all about the Illinois Theater Association on the website. We have 5 divisions. Secondary is the largest division, but also we have community theater, a professional, a college university, and then a creative drama theater for young audiences divisions. And each of those divisions has some kind of a major event. A lot of them are connected or interconnected with secondary. So for instance, the college and university group is planning to do a workshop that would be for high school students who are getting prepared to audition or interview for colleges because they want to go into theater when they're in college. And so that's a great way for us to connect with the college division and for them to reach out to the high school teachers and students and give them some help with getting their kids ready for college.
One of the nice things is that if you join ITA as an organization, as a high school, for example, the directors who are part of it are also part of the ITA then. So it's a really nice perk, particularly for our high schools. Okay, let me go back. Hang on. There we go. And so this is the miscellaneous comments is just the if you have any accessibility needs. So if there are students who maybe have mobility issues, if you have deaf or hard of hearing or vision, or if there's another type of accessibility need, if we know about that ahead of time, we are able to help provide the accessibility they might need, or to let you know if there are any sort of limitations that you might need to be aware of. So we're going to hit next. And then this is when you put in your students who will be attending with you. So the number of students, and it's $75 per student. The number of chaperones, and how many chaperones per 10 students do we need? So if we have 40 students, we need 4 chaperones, or 36 students. 40 is the top number that we ask you to have. So for example, at our school, because we have more than 40 students involved in theater, we make this something special for our thespians, for example, to be able to come.
And so that's why I was suggesting starting with the med forms, because when you have, I do it as a first come, first serve. I start with my senior thespians, and then I open up to all thespians, and then all seniors, and so on and so forth. You have your list of students, and you'll know exactly how many students you need to pay for. When I did this registration form, one thing that was a little confusing to me, just doing it the first time, if you click the select button, if you have more than 10 going, you have to hit that plus 10. And later on, then you can change it to exactly how many students. At first, I got a little confused and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But that was something I learned doing it. So that might be helpful for other people who are doing it. And just to highlight the meal cards, they are optional. You do not have to purchase that. I am a big fan of it because I know that my kids are on campus and they're all getting fed and they'll have the opportunity to get fed. Sometimes letting them go wherever they want, for me personally, makes me just a little bit more nervous that they're actually using money to get fed. This way they're getting fed.
And then one of the
college experience a little bit too. Just the college experience a little bit too, especially the dorm food that is available for us it's all redone over the last few years. And it's just right on the corner of where the Cranert Center is, which is where the majority of the things happen. So it's so close and there's so many options. So dietary restrictions and things like that. They've got something for everybody where the Domino's that may or may not be open. And obviously, the more students that we keep on campus, of course, the better for safety and security and things like that, because we just want our students to be close.
And then one of the perks of being a member of the Theatrefest Planning Committee is that it's free for you to attend. And Alan, I believe you are still looking for people to be part of the 2026 Theatrefest Planning Committee?
That is correct. I am about halfway through. So if there are people out there who would like to help plan our 2026 festival, which is our 50th anniversary, please contact me and let me know, and we can talk about some skills that we can put to good use to create an amazing festival for these kids.
And then that would allow you for the 2026 festival to select this box. And then a space for donation. If your school is looking for places where they can do in-kind donations or different types of donations, please always keep some of these opportunities in mind to go towards theater in Illinois, towards our students in Allstate, towards the festival as a whole, and to promote inclusivity for the festival around the state. So then it goes through and we'll give you a summary of everything. So you can double check, go back if you need to. Then the terms and conditions. So this is where it reminds you the other elements that you need to be sure to fill out. And your order total, your payment plan, and then you hit submit. Any other ideas here?
You should, after you get this, you should get another, you'll get another email that will then also give you the total. So if you have to, I'm sure you probably, every school is a little bit different, but if you have to do a, just send an invoice, they will send you that invoice as after this screen. So you don't need to worry about screenshotting this screen or anything like that. You should get a secondary bit of information that has that invoice on.
If I remember, it popped up saying, do you need an invoice? It was very
Yeah.
user friendly and it sent it right away and it made it very easy because in the past I've had to print things out. So this was really nice to turn into our business office.
Yeah, if it's credit card, you once you click it, you'll be able to do it right there, right then, and then you'll be fully registered for the school registration part. But to be clear, all that stuff at the top, your school isn't officially registered until all that other information has been received. Theaterfest can fill up. We do not let an unlimited amount of students and schools participate because we want to make sure that there's enough items for everyone to be able to do. So that's one of the things that we're working especially hard on coming out of COVID to really just make sure that we're getting as many people in to do workshops and present shows and things like that. So there's always a lot of things for people to do. So because of that, there is a chance that we'd have to go to a waiting list so that we don't overfill the festival and then make it so that people don't have the experience that we really want them to have. So that's why we encourage people to do it sooner rather than later. Typically, we're filling up in the middle of October, while technically the deadline is later. We typically have in years filled up near the end of October, mid to end of October. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to get all your ducks in a row. I know finding the time to get your students to meet and then to get them to fill out their forms and to get your business office to send the payment and all those kinds of things. I think the biggest thing that the advice when it comes down to that also would be to just email us if you're having issues with one portion. So if your business office just takes a really long time and you know that, just let us know and we can see how we can help you with that situation so that your school doesn't get penalized or anything like that because your process to get a check written is really convoluted. We know that every school has got a lot of roadblocks because everyone's trying to make sure that all their funds are being used appropriately, and we totally understand that. So just keep us posted if there's that one thing that is holding your entire registration back, and we can help you work through it.
So we already talked about the medical media release form. One of the other forms is the principal acknowledgement form. It's a pretty simple form that you can just print off. I always drop it off with my principal in the beginning of the year. He happened to be on paternity leave, but he can get it signed quickly. Again, I scan it in so that I have everything in PDF so I can do one email to the university with everything that I need to do. The last thing you're going to need is the Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets of the students, and it's a document. And if you want me to share, Christine, I have mine loaded.
Sounds good. Yep.
If that's easy, just for time being. Of course, now I need to remember how to share. Okay, so over here, this is my folder. You'll see if I can move this stuff. So here we have the Excel spreadsheet, excuse me. You can populate your students in this order. It tells you how many. On the right, you're going to list your chaperones and then who that primary chaperone. Again, the primary chaperone should be over here. It reminds you of the 10-to-1 ratio. You can download it as a PDF or send it like that. Like I said, I keep everything in just my Google Drive into an organized place. And then that way I can again send one email with all of the medical media release forms, the principal signature, and then that list of names. The last piece that I will share, and again, if anyone needs a copy of it to doctor to their own, this is always what I hand out to my students. It's something that I pulled off the website and just kind of tailored it to myself about what the Theater Fest was when I had to originally justify going on this field trip. And it talks a little bit about the history. And then on the last page, I have the objectives, but I also talk about the different costs. I know something that I struggled with as a new teacher and a new festival participant was how much to charge students. And I think a lot of that depends on the hotels you're going to stay at. So just when you're telling kids about this, consider that. There are lots of different hotel options, but you want to make sure you're including tax because most hotels still charge tax, even though we are not, schools. And just remembering how to do all the math. I have to charge $260 a person, and that you can see kind of the breakdown of how that breaks down, where I'm staying. And then these are obviously my rules for how I sign up with my students. So just something to think about.
Can I also add to that? I'm not sure what your transportation issue is, Anna, but
We are very lucky we don't pay for it. Our school just gives us buses.
right. So you might,
not every
depending
school.
on your school, you might have to add a transportation cost. There are some schools which will allow you to use their school vans and have adults drive. I think less schools are allowing that now, but that would definitely lower your cost as opposed to paying for a driver and their room and their food for the weekend. So that would be something you could talk with your administration about and ask if there's any money in their slush fund maybe to help you out.
And again, all of those questions, those are things that Christine and I are more than happy to help with. We're both in the mentorship, on the mentorship end of things. And so just happy to talk you through that. We've both been doing it for a few years. So.
And another thing just to consider, you mentioned the hotel and the costs. Don't wait too long to start looking for hotels because with 4,000 plus kids coming into either Champaign-Urbana or Bloomington, wherever we are, hotels tend to fill up quickly. So do plan ahead.
And make sure you're knowing what kind of rooms you're reserving and whether or not there's pullouts or couch, just to accommodate, and check with your school too about how many kids can stay in a room. I know with COVID, certain things have changed depending on your school. And so depending on, again, what your school rules are, please abide by those.
And some hotels have a limit of 2 to a room. Some have different. So just, look into how many rooms it's going to take and what the limitations are.
Yeah, and if you go to on the website, when you click on registration, there'll be something that says parking, hotels, meals, transportation, and maps. So you'll be able to see that on the actual website. I think it might be up just a skosh, or it's in the for teachers at least. Yeah, if you click on the teachers. Parking hotel. So this is they're finishing up the finalized hotel list, but if you scroll down just a little bit, there'll actually be hotels that we have some room blocks already created for schools if they choose to use them. with some negotiated rates. The negotiated rates, unfortunately, aren't that much cheaper, but they do the best they can. There are some things that says up there about how to reference Illinois High School Theater Festival, etc. So those are just 5 of the hotels. We've got about 20 more that we are just waiting to get the official contract signed. Experience Champaign has been really, really helpful making that, which is kind of their community business bureau, if you will. And they are helping us a lot with being able to foster that. So we have over 400 rooms that are reserved already just for those blocks. So that is, especially if you're new, that might be a really good place to start.
You're on mute, Christina. It's okay.
Thanks. At this point, if you guys have any questions about the process, about going to Theaterfest, we're here to answer what questions we can.
I know we don't have a large crowd, but Keegan and I think it was Laurel, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for hosting this. My name is Keegan. I'm with Robinson High School in Robinson, Illinois.
Oh, I'm right by you. I'm in Beverly, like just a little further north.
Oh, sweet. Okay. This is kind of a full circle meeting for me with Alan in here. Alan was at SIC when I started doing theater in 5th grade. So this is like a fun little full circle thing.
Well, maybe there's a different Robinson then. Are you down south?
I am down south.
There's a
Well,
different Robinson.
I'm in the middle.
I'm thinking Robbins. So sorry. Continue.
Oh, okay. With the hotel, so I'm primarily a music teacher. I'm in the ILMEA system, and when we do IMEC, they take care of the hotel for us, which is great and also not great. Sometimes you're right next to the convention center, sometimes you're 20 minutes out. So with this, since we're responsible for ourselves, how long should we typically wait to like reserve, since Theaterfest fills up and sometimes there's a wait list? Like what's the lag time?
Great question. I would advise you that if you are right now thinking like, I want to bring some kids, call and reserve rooms, because every hotel will let you cancel. So I actually tend to reserve my rooms in May the year before. But it took me 10 years to figure that out. So that's a pro move that I don't know that everybody does. So you could start calling right now to see what availability they have and get the rooms on hold. Hello, cat. Which would be a great idea, you know, because then you have those things. Again, a lot of hotels are very easy to work with. They'll let you hold a block for a little bit before you can confirm.
Awesome. Thanks.
Was that a Maine Coon? That's what I want to know. Was that a Maine Coon?
No, I wish it was a Maine Coon.
Just too
no,
close
it's
to the
just
camera.
a long blue hair.
Conversely, I forget about hotels all the time. And I'm usually waiting till like November, and it just takes me 20 phone calls. Like I can get them, but it might be 12 minutes away instead of 5 minutes away. So you can still find it, but I definitely think that Anna is absolutely correct. I usually at this point, I think quads. So I do however many students I've had in the past. So let's say it's 24. Then I think I need 6 rooms plus 2 just for the gender balance. And then think plus my chaperones. And if I need a bus driver, because if it's like a yellow bus, then I need a bus driver room. So then I usually just kind of guesstimate that. So now at this point, I kind of know that I'm looking for 11 rooms almost every year. So then I can just call and say, I need 11 rooms, then I'll figure it out later. So
and I do believe a lot of schools, like I actually reserve more than I need just in case, because again, like I know I'm going to be canceling some rooms. So if I know that you need some rooms and it works out, I can transfer mine to you, which I've done in the past. It's just a matter of releasing them.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Everyone's looking on a Zoom at Laurel to see if you have any questions.
But no pressure, Laurel.
Yeah.
Will the university, a question that came in, will the university send a confirmation once they have everything from you to be considered fully registered?
Yeah, 100%. That's a great question from the chat box. You will get once you have fulfilled all your registration requirements, which is your medical release form, your payment, your registration form, your principal form, and your Excel document. So once all those 5 things, then you will get another confirmation mail that says that you are set. Congratulations, you're going to Theaterfest. Whoop! Part of that email will then also give you instructions for college auditions if your student is interested, if any of your students are interested in college auditions. So they don't have to do college auditions by any means, but we have about 150 acting slots and about 70 tech slots available on an average festival to be able to get those students in. So that's kind of that same thing. The faster you can get registered, then the faster you get that information to your students. And then the best thing is to encourage them to make sure that they sign up for that college application process so that they're able to get in, because we sometimes will fill up on that also. So it's kind of, it all just kind of, you know, snowballs. If we wait too long to get things registered, things can become just a little bit more difficult. But most of the time we're able to work with everyone the best we can to be able to get as many students opportunity who needs it. But there is just only so many hours in a day in order to fit these auditions in. So that's part of that final thing you will get. And then you will eventually get in December kind of a last email goes out. That's all the final information, information on the app, so that you can see what's happening at the festival, and all that kind of stuff will come a little bit later. You can obviously see it all online now also, but we just try to just give some individual emails out too as the process goes through, so that we're not relying on everyone just going to the website, go to the website, go to the website, but instead here's this important information so that we kind of can only care about it when we have to care about it, and don't just keep refresh, because there might be new information up today. So we try to do the best on that way.
And have these emails already started at this point, or are they still in the process of sending them out at this point?
I think that we have about 5 schools that have fully completed the process for everything. So I believe those have gone out, but it is, especially the payment part is kind of the slower part of the process for most people. But I believe that has already started to be going on.
What happens if I have a student who registers and said they're good to go in October, but then something happens and come November, that kid can't go anymore? Can I replace that with a different kid? What do I need to do?
Great question. So there are kind of 2 options. If there's an October date that's listed on the website of when you can just get a refund, to be able to just not have that student go anymore. And I feel like it's somewhere in the October 15th range. But once we get closer to the fest, we can't really cancel because all of the work has already been done, as if that student was there. So what you can do is you can have a new medical release form filled out, and we can swap that registration to a new student at the festival. We can do some of that beforehand, but the medical release form and stuff like that, we could also do at the festival. Same thing with chaperones, if the same thing kind of happens. I know I had a chaperone who had a family emergency, so we just had to swap out that chaperone with a new medical form, and it wasn't that big of a deal. So if you paid for it, we want you to be able to use it. And because we do sometimes have to turn some people down, we certainly don't want to not be able to replace that and then have some kind of open spots for some workshops and things like that. So that's definitely something that we encourage you to be able to do. But just straight up canceling someone gets a little bit trickier because we're stopping the registration process. So, but once it ends, there is still ways you can swap, and that's all laid out in the registration as well.
What if my school is one where some of the costs of this might be difficult for my kids or my school? Is there any suggestions?
The best part about having this being part of the Illinois Theater Association, whose entire mission is to support theater throughout the state of Illinois, is that the ITA has a fund specifically to help students and schools and sponsors be able to go to Theatrefest. So over the last few years, especially coming out of the pandemic, things were really, really scary, honestly, for so many organizations, especially non-for-profits and ones that rely on audiences, right? So the ITA worked really, really hard. The treasurer and the executive committee worked really hard to make sure that the ITA is strong, and it's pretty much stronger than ever financially, because of some really hard choices, but also a lot of hard work. So they have, after every festival, they've been able to use some of surplus money or things that have come in under budget between donations and sponsorships and things like that to be able to put money specifically aside for their DEI initiatives. And this is a great use for those funds for individual students, for full school scholarships, and also for sponsors who maybe want to try it for the very first time, who aren't really sure whether they would work for their school. There's sponsorships available for all of that stuff. There should be information up on the website, but I will make sure that is actually on my meeting that I have on Thursday to ask that question. But I'll make sure that that information is up on the website as well. But you can always email executive director or info@ihstf.org if you have any questions, and we can make sure we answer those. But that is an amazing opportunity that the ITA has made available. I think last year we gave away over $12,000 of student scholarships or school scholarships to get schools who've never been able to come to Fest be able to come through their DEI initiatives. So it's really great. Any other questions? Anyone who is new, who's just like, oh man, I still am not sure about this? We try to lay it out as easy as possible. We understand that it's just one more thing that we have to do. And I know, Keegan, you made a perfect example with the ILMEA stuff and things like that. Everyone does it such a different way that it's sometimes hard to like remember, oh, this person does it this way, this thing does it this way, and every organization and all the letters after all of our names have all these different things. So good.
I went ahead and threw our email in the chat just so you guys have it, Keegan and Laurel. And then I know, Christina, you can post it with the video when we post this. But again, I don't hesitate to reach out. Christina and I are pretty good about checking our email, and we will happily hold your hand through all of this. We can phone call, we can FaceTime, we can Zoom with you, and whatever you guys need to help get registered.
I have two questions. The first one is, this is the first year that we think we have our feet under us enough to consider looking at like participating in the Thespies with any kind of seriousness. But I don't know how that works or which day. And so I'm looking at the registration form and thinking about when do we want to go see the all-state performance and how do I rank that? And I'm thinking, okay, but I don't want to put it on, if the Thespy thing is always on Friday, I don't want to put that, as my first rank. And the same with the Tech Olympics. So that's my first question.
So that's a great question. First of all, the Thespies stuff, Illinois Thespians will release that at some point this fall. I'm on that board too. And as soon as I think that gets organized, I think you have a lot of flexibility. Same with, and I don't want to overspeak, but Tech Olympics, you'll have lots of opportunities to compete throughout the day. So none of that should conflict.
Okay. The Tech Olympics is a 5-hour span. And I would imagine Thespies is a similar sort of way, but Tech Olympics for sure is. So it shouldn't affect your all-state time at all when it comes to that. But that is a very good question.
Usually a safe bet would be to choose the Friday nights performance of All-State and or the Saturday at 2:30, because those shouldn't be conflicting with either of those things.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
My second question was about preparing kids for those things. I understand that thespians will have plenty of supportive material for the Thespies that I can learn more about. I've been trying to figure it out. For Tech Olympics, how do I prepare kids for those events? Is there any resource or a place to look? I mean, for example, like taping the stage. I don't know what all the official conventions are. Where would I look for that, and how do I convey that to my kids in the next, 3 months or so?
Sounds like another video we should do.
Yeah, it actually is a video that we are going to do. I talked to the Tech Olympics. We actually have a committee person solely here now just to make sure the Tech Olympics has the support that it needs. And along with our professional group of the ITA, they're kind of working together to put a series of videos together that actually show how to do all of the events that we're actually asking them to do. Because one of the things that we really have discussed, and as part of the DEI initiative as well, there are so many schools who are maybe a one-person theater program who maybe they just don't have the expertise, or they don't have the equipment, they don't have the stage. I think one of the things sometimes is Nyko pressing a wire rope. Well, some people don't have any flight capability. Why would they know that? That piece of equipment is hundreds of dollars, and if you don't need it, why would you even have it, right? So one of the things that I really challenge them with, because it's stuff we've been talking about for years, is to try to put together not only the list of the actual events that can be posted earlier, but then also little mini tutorials on each of those, so that if the students don't know, they've got a place, because it just seems, I don't want to say unfair, but it just seems unfortunate if that sponsor just doesn't have that skill set, because there's no reason that some of us have to have that skill set. So we really want to make it an opportunity that not only can the sponsors learn, but then the students can really learn, and they can practice on their own, so that they can be the most prepared if we're going to do something like that. So that is definitely one of our big goals this year, is to get those videos posted. So all of the videos will be on our mentorship page that Anna and Christina made. So it's really, really great. You'll see it at multiple places online, but I'll make sure we'll make sure that we keep posting up on the website any new things that show up, so that we can support our students in the best way possible. Absolutely.
Thanks, you guys.
The other thing that'll help you too with Thespies, even though it's not directly Thespies, is that later this in October, we'll be doing an auditions video, and I'm sure many of those skills will help. And especially if your kids want to participate in the college auditions.
Absolutely. And just because we're talking about some of those special events, there's also a speech tournament that will be happening at the Theatrefest too. If anyone is worried about, we have some students who are worried about going to Theatrefest because that weekend they kind of miss out on a speech tournament, especially for the schools where speech and debate is a really big deal. So we do have a speech tournament as part of the festival that Anthony, one of our workshop leaders, started putting together. And it's a really great way to be able to get those students' input, but still being able to go to Theatrefest as a whole. So for anyone who's interested in that, that's also another great opportunity.
I have two more questions. The first one is, I've never participated in this as a student, and definitely not as an instructor, so this is my first year at everything. Is there like a what your student should bring list? Because there's so many different workshops going on. So what kind of basics should they be prepared to bring in?
That's a great question. I do have a resource, and again, maybe either when we get closer or know who all the new, like when you complete the registration, we could reach out to any of the new schools. I often have a meeting in December with my students, and I go over that, and I talk about what to bring and what not to bring. This is dating myself, but I was like, you can't bring your Xboxes and don't bring boom boxes, but just a list of like all the things to prepare for, especially weather, because as many of us who live, obviously in Illinois, it could be 60, it could be 0. So I go through some basics of those things, and I'm happy to share that with you.
That'd be
It
great.
might be both during the fest. It might be 60
Also
and
might be
0
both, and
over
ice
those
on
2
top.
days.
Yeah.
But yeah, but bottom line, Anna is really, really gracious to send her materials to everybody. So if you click the new to fest, you'll get a personal email from someone on either hospitality or mentorship, and we will be happily send you a link or a copy of what we sent to our students. So you can just change the school names, and you should be really, really close.
Awesome.
So yeah. And you
My
had one
second
more
question, yes, is, so since there are so many workshops, like how do students sign up or figure out how to get into those workshops? Because I'm sure they fill up really fast with that many students attending.
So this year we are starting for the first time in general doing some a little bit more pre-registrations for some of the workshops, as well as the show tickets to do a lot of the tickets before the actual festival. So more information will come on that as we kind of have all the workshops, but there are some specialty experiences that will have sign-ups before. So like the Tech Olympics, for example, that's something that you would want to pre-sign up for, so that you know that your time doesn't interfere with, like for your all-state show, for example. So we will have some of those things that have forever been a pre-registration, but the committee, we were talking about somewhere in the 50% ish of several workshops, especially kind of like the more well-attended ones, you might be able to pre-register for. So we are in the process of finalizing all of those plans as the workshops are coming in, which is part of the issue, if you will.
Sure.
Workshop presenters come in the middle of October. So then usually by November, middle of November, we have the docket and the schedule. And then from there, we can start opening it up. But ultimately, if you can't pre-register for every workshop, which we know we won't be able to do every single workshop because there's 300 workshops, that would be an awful lot to maintain. But from some of the specialty ones, we definitely want to be able to do. But we always encourage the students to show up a little bit earlier, maybe up to 30 minutes early, for the ones that they really, really want to do. And I always tell my students that if there's back-to-back workshops that you really desperately want to do, and you know you need to leave a little bit early to one, it's completely reasonable to tell that workshop instructor before it even starts, I just want to let you know I've got to go across campus to another workshop that I really want to go to, so I'm going to leave 10 minutes early. But please don't be offended that I do that, because I think it's just a nice way to help teach them that kind of respectful leaving, but also so that they can get to that next thing on time. What we really try to avoid, and what one of our missions this year really is, to try to avoid the hour-and-a-half long waits that people were doing to get into one workshop. So we upped, for example, the minimum amount of participants in a workshop so that we just had more opportunities for our students. So that's really what we're trying to do this year. And then we're also really encouraging our workshop leaders to do 2 workshops instead of just at one time. So they've got a little more opportunity to, if they really want to do it and they couldn't get into it, okay, we'll stick around and then hopefully you'll make the second session. So we're really trying to encourage our workshop leaders to be able to do that. Not always an easy task, but it's something that we're definitely trying to do, because our goal is to have almost as many things to do as there are participants at any given time of the day, within reason, of course,
Sure.
between shows and workshops. So that's what our goal is, and the committee's been working really hard to try to make that happen.
And Keegan, just to let you know, and Laurel, there's an app it's really cool and will be available for you and your students to download. And so over winter break and way before the festival, you'll be able to see the schedule of everything and kind of start planning that out.
Perfect.
And then that way, I always tell my kids, like, choose your first choice thing, but then have a backup just in case it is full.
Mm-hmm.
With
Anna,
other stuff like that, we've also had sometimes people have to cancel, especially people who are coming from out of town or out of state. So we actually are working on our own substitute plans, to try to be able to make sure that even if that specific workshop doesn't happen, something that's at least related, whether it's an acting workshop or a tech workshop, can still happen. So that, because we were just it pains us really when we know that there's students who waited 35 minutes or an hour to get into a workshop and then they find out it's canceled and they have nothing to do. Like, at least let them stumble upon something that maybe is super interesting to them that they didn't even expect, but not just be canceled. So some we're really trying. Sorry, Judy, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, Anna, do you know if the program from last year is on the website? Because even if since you've never been to the festival before, if you look at last year's program, you'll get a better sense of how the workshops are laid out and timing of things.
At the
Yeah.
very bottom of the homepage, I actually left the 2023 festival up because that's at U of I. So I want to at least be similar to U of I. So if you were to click here, this is what it was 2 years ago. This was somewhat limited because it was the first year out of the pandemic, but most of the information is going to be awfully similar. So this is also a great resource if you need to talk to your admin about even approving the festival. There's so much great stuff here that they can take a look at, and you can really, it doesn't take a lot to convince them when it comes to professional development for the staff, but then also what the students are going to gain from it. So this is a really, really good way to look at it. So this is from, like I said, this is the U of I festival because it goes U of I ISU, U of I ISU. So that's why I left that one up. So even though it's 2 years outdated, it's at the university we'll be at this year. So that's a really great resource. Good idea, Judy. All right, mentors, you want to wrap it up?
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Christina, I'll turn it over to you to talk about the posting details.
So we will be posting this video online on our YouTube channel, which also has our applying to be part of Allstate, just if kids are interested for the future, and our what if you want to bring a play to be performed at Theatrefest. So if you are doing a fall show, how can you have your show considered to actually perform at Theatrefest? So we have some videos on that. And coming up in the future is some information about bringing a workshop and on the college audition process as well. So those are some of the next things coming up, but you can look for us on YouTube. We thank you guys for coming and being here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.